I hate that question, by the way.
It's fair.
But I don't think it is fair.
When you look at Palou, can anybody beat him? Not yet.
Not yet.
Where were Ducati and Yamaha?
That's a great question, Kevin. But when Pato said, it's great for the fans, but they should never be a but.
I think that pairing of Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin is obviously dangerous. IndyCar practices a lot. We get 30 minutes.
That's fair. Mario got his first speeding ticket ever at age 86 on his 86th birthday. Guess how fast he was going?
86.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Speed with Harvick and Buxton.
Let's talk racing.
Welcome to Speed with Harvick and Buxton, fueled by Poet.
Let's talk racing.
Let's do that, and let's get straight into it with hot topics, because they said it couldn't be done, but Tyler Reddick made history in the NASCAR Cup Series, recording his third win in a row to go 3 for 3 to start a season, the first time it's ever happened. And to do it, he had to fight off the advances of the man who was gunning for his 6th straight road and street course win, Shane van Gisbergen. SVG had won the O'Reilly race the day before with a staggering final lap which saw him pass 5 cars, but he just didn't have an answer for the imperious Reddick, who had started off 2026 in immaculate form. Daytona, Atlanta, COTA, 3 for 3, and looked incredible the whole way. Kevin, an unbelievable start to the season.
Well, and on 3 different styles of racetracks, and to go to the road course and do what he did. And I know one thing, Michael Jordan better show up in Phoenix, because he does not want to be responsible for the piece of the momentum that isn't there in Phoenix to be able to keep this streak going. So unbelievable start. And anytime you can break a record that has not been set in NASCAR, you've done something. We've been here for a while.
Absolutely. IndyCar kicked off their 2026 season on the streets of St. Pete, and Ganassi's 4-time champion Alex Palou delivered an absolute masterclass to lead 59 of the 100 laps and take a crushing victory by the largest margin in the race's history. He defeated pole sitter Scott McLaughlin of Penske and McLaren's Christian Lundgaard to extend his run at the top of the championship standings to 630 days. Dale Coyne Racing made headlines as returning driver Romain Grosjean and rookie Dennis Hauger both made the Fast 6 in qualifying and finished in the top 10. A brilliant result for the sport's smallest team.
When you look at Palou, I think our question was answered this weekend. Can anybody beat him? Not yet.
Not yet. NASCAR Truck Series was also on track in St. Pete on Saturday for the series' first ever street course race. Lane Riggs drove beautifully to win a race that was full of notable names, amongst them Dario Franchitti and, of course, Jimmy Johnson as his crew chief, and they were running top 10 for most of the day until disaster struck in the final laps for the number 1 gearbox issue, I understand. Our friend and colleague James Hinchcliffe, aka Little Jimmy Hinch, actually managed to finish top 10 in his first ever truck race while rocking the Speed with Harvick and Buxton in-car sponsorship. Kevin, should NASCAR bring the trucks to the streets more often?
Well, I love the way that this particular track drove for the trucks. Those drivers never been there before. I thought they did a really good job. But I love how it's a little bit wider than most of the street courses in some of the sections. They were able to use the curbs pretty aggressively in some of those sections. So I thought they put on a fantastic show.
It was a great show. Brilliant show as well in MotoGP. Round 1 of the season took place in Thailand, and it really was a cracker. The Shark attacked in the sprint, Pedro Acosta denying Marquez after a thrilling battle to finally become a MotoGP winner. But it didn't come without controversy, as Marquez was ordered to give up the lead on the final corner of the sprint after putting a move on Acosta that even Acosta himself admitted he'd have made in the same situation. Sunday's main race saw Marco Bezzecchi dominate and lead every lap en route to victory, his 7th career win, but it was reigning champion Marc Marquez who again created one of the biggest headlines with a tyre failure. Acosta ran home 2nd, with Trackhouse rider Fernandez 3rd. All 4 Aprilias finished in the top 5.
Where were Ducati and Yamaha?
Right?
That was a really solid weekend. Obviously, with Bez on Sunday getting to the top of the podium, and then you look at Trackhouse third, but the Aprilis,
amazing.
Man, they look strong.
4.5 years since we had a MotoGP Grand Prix podium without a Ducati on it. Unbelievable. In Formula One, the compression ratio saga appears to have reached a conclusion just in time for the start of the season, with an announcement that a new test will be introduced in June. The controversy centered on Mercedes and their rumored ability to run higher than the regulatory level when at race temperatures. An intelligent loophole, given the original tests were only due to be run at ambient temperatures. A new 266 degrees Fahrenheit test will be carried out in conjunction with ambient tests from June 1st. With the hot test replacing the ambient test completely from 2027. Mercedes, though, don't appear worried by the change because they were part of a unanimous vote in favour of the new rule, which comes into effect after the first 7 races of the season. Kevin, somehow I kind of feel like we haven't heard the last of this.
I would agree, and I can't wait until we actually get the cars on the racetrack so that the politics and the gamesmanship that goes along with everything that we're hearing right now, we can actually see where everybody is, but it's going to be an intriguing first week.
Only a few days to wait. Nikita Johnson won the season-opening Indy Next race from Max Taylor and Timmy Kachow, as the boys are calling him in the booth, to kick the year off in style for Cape Motorsports. The series now has a week off before rejoining IndyCar in Arlington. Super Formula conducted a 2-day preseason test at Suzuka, which was topped by Nirei Fukuzumi from Igor Fraga and Ren Sato. But the biggest headline was a monstrous crash through the infamous 130R, which saw F2 graduate Luke Browning flip over the barriers. Car held up incredibly. Browning was okay, the car was rebuilt, and he was back on track the very next day. Round 8 of AMA Supercross saw a visit to Daytona and their own record-breaking night as Eli Tomac became the most decorated competitor at the World Center of Racing to finally depose Richard Petty with his 8th win at the circuit. Hunter Lawrence, who came home second, still leads the standings, but now by just a single point from Tomac. Seth Hammaker won the 250 class to close the gap on Pierce Brown to 2 points. In Australian Supercars, they didn't race this week, but in their excitement, or my excitement over getting our first show to air last week, completely forgot to mention them. My apologies for that. Won't happen again. Supercars legend Jamie WHINCUP, who amassed an incredible record 125 victories, 7 championships, and 4 Bathurst 1000 race wins, has been inducted into the Australian Motorsport Hall of Fame. His a name that resonates not just within Australian motorsports, but around the world. A worthy recognition of one of the all-time greats of our sport. Bill Elliott won the stock car class at Sebring in Chase Elliott's old Red Bull car. And finally, we of course have to mention the developing situation in the Gulf, and while of seemingly little importance in the wider context, the disruption it could create in the racing world. Formula One personnel and freight often transit through the UAE, and we travel to and from Australia, travel to China and Japan this month, and races due in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia next month. The sport says it is monitoring the situation. A tyre test due to be held in Bahrain this week has been cancelled. Meanwhile, the World Endurance Championship is due to have its prologue and race in Qatar in just 3 weeks' time. And as I understand it, breaking news today, Qatar has just suspended all sporting activities in the country. And that is your lap around the racing world. Okay, time for Under the Hood. Kevin, we're going to go deep on topics that we're passionate about in this section of the show. And this week, I want to know more about 23XI, okay? Because they're on such a run. Obviously, Reddick, 3 wins to start the season off. Is it the car? Is it the driver? First and foremost, what is it that Michael Jordan brings to that organization?
Well, I would answer that question, yes. It's all of that.
Okay.
And I think let's start with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, you saw that fantastic picture that they recreated of Michael Jordan holding that 3rd NBA championship trophy, and Tyler Reddick breaking the record, winning the first 3 races of the season. But the thing that Michael Jordan brings that team is there's just no moment too big to perform in. He's been there, he's done that, and he brings that aura that just greatness follows. And when you have the momentum, you have an owners that expect to win with Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin, I think that it becomes easier. And getting through Daytona and Atlanta and winning both of those races on a super speedway is something that there's a little bit of luck involved in just making it to the end of the race. But the fact that they were able to accomplish winning 2 super speedways in a row, and now we go to a road course where a lot of car, a lot of driver, strategy, all the things that you have to be able to put together shows that those guys are on top of their game right now. And it wouldn't surprise me if they win 4 in a row at Phoenix.
That's okay. I'm going to get to that in a second, but look, I'd get it. I'd understand it, right? If Michael Jordan owned a basketball team and we were talking about basketball, right? This is NASCAR. This is not his wheelhouse. So how does Jordan's influence translate to the rest of the team? Is it sort of at every conceivable level? Is it just his aura and his experience being able to lift everybody up and have them perform at a higher level? Is it the investment that he's been able to bring, so they've been able to hire the right people or make the developments of the car that they need? Like where does his particular sort of influence really affect it the most?
Well, he said it after the race, and his biggest piece of the puzzle that he brings to the table is the financial stability for the team, the investment that they have made in the team. But in his words, it's Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin was able to help him put the pieces together. And actually, he said that he put the pieces together to go out and find Billy Scott, Tyler Reddick's crew chief, to go get Tyler Reddick, to put Bubba Wallace and the crew chief pairings that they have, the personnel inside. Because as you know, you can have fast cars and you can have the coolest trick of the week, but if you don't have the right people, this is no different than any other business. It's all about the people. And Denny Hamlin should get a lot of credit for that. And that pairing of Denny Hamlin's ability to understand the sport, Michael Jordan's commitment to make sure that they have the funding and the things that they need to put those cars on the racetrack, it really boils down to being able to get more details out of the race car and put those pieces together at super speedways, road courses, going to a short track at Phoenix next week. So I think that pairing of Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin is obviously dangerous and very successful to start the 2026 season. And I think that Michael, in his own word, gave Denny a lot of credit, gave Denny all the credit for putting those people in place.
What's the vibe like in the NASCAR paddock right now? Because these are the upstarts, right? This is not a traditional, entrenched, storied team in NASCAR history. They're taking on those guys, and they've just made history. Is that met with a kind of positivity that it's a great story? Is it met with shock? Is there an element of resentment to it?
I don't think there's any resentment. I think everybody understands the significance of 2311 being able to be successful in our sport and what that brings to the table. But I think when you back up a few steps and you say, okay, why is 2311 successful? I think you also have to put that on Toyota and Joe Gibbs Racing. Those cars are coming out of the Joe Gibbs Racing shop. 2311 puts their final details and setups in the car. I think the ability, and all of the manufacturers are somewhat like this, but I think right now, the ability to share the information and the setups and driver data and all the things that are in place, that Joe Gibbs 2311 alliance and the performance. So you saw Christopher Bell and Ty Gibbs in the top 5 as well. Bubba Wallace was 12th. Denny Hamlin got his first top 10 at COTA. Yeah. So you have to put a little bit of that success in the relationship that they have with Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota.
We saw the opening 2 races of the season, and the question mark was, could they do it on a road and street course, right? They can. And against the guy who was going for 6 in a row in Shane Van Gisbergen, who honestly didn't have an answer for the 2311 on the track.
Not all weekend. And this has been a little bit of the kryptonite for SVG. He hasn't been able to get to victory lane at COTA in the Cup Series. He obviously won on Saturday to check that box, but the speed was never there for the 97 group and SVG all weekend compared to the Toyota started off the first practice, struggled. They missed the pace from their simulation and all the things that they had prepared for, but they made quick adjustments. By the time qualifying came around, Tyler Reddick was on the pole, a lot of Toyotas in the first part of the field. SVG qualified 13th. And you saw it at the end of the race. He just did not have the lateral grip that he needed to be able to get that car to get, main reason off of turn 20. That's where Reddick fended off Ryan Blaney. That's where he fended off SVG to not put himself in a position for that dive bomb into turn 1 at COTA to be able to set himself up for more of a race than he had, because he could get off the exit of turn 20 so much better. But SVG gave it everything that he had. He was using every square inch of that racetrack, really good through the S's, but in all the right spots where Tyler's car was better, kept him from putting himself in a position to where he could be outbraked.
Reddick now has, what is it, a 70-point lead?
70 points.
70 points in the standings. The chase obviously is in play this year. Consistency is key, as is performance on track. You said earlier you think he can win 4 on the bounce. I'm going to ask you the same question that people have been asking me for the last year in terms of Alex Palou, which is, number one, what are they doing differently? And number two, are they doing anything they shouldn't be? And they just haven't been found out yet.
Yeah, well,
because it's a horrible thing to ask, but people will naturally say this is a championship where you're supposed to have different winners every weekend. How is one guy being this dominant on different track types, out of nowhere?
Yeah, and we saw the same thing from Christopher Bell. Went on a run last year, not the first 3 races, but he won starting at Atlanta the next 3 races in a row. So he won 3 in a row last year, and I think that our sport is a lot like other sports. Momentum is a real thing, and when you get those details right on the car. And you survive the super speedways, and that carries that momentum from surviving the super speedways, but not only surviving, but winning those 2 races, and then going to Tyler Reddick's best road course. He has been on the front row, on the pole, has won there before in an RCR car, and so he's had speed at that particular racetrack, and I think that lined up well to be the 3rd race. I think when we get to Phoenix, we still have a lot of variables at the beginning of this NASCAR season, because of the more horsepower on the short tracks and road courses. A lot of questions going into COTA with the fall off and the tire wear and everything that they had going on. So, I think that it's really hard with the way that the inspection and things are happening in NASCAR to get too far out of the box with the way that the cars are inspected. And they've done a great job at that. So I think that momentum is the real thing that is on their side. And at the beginning of the year, Chevrolet's got a new car. The Fords didn't capitalize on the super speedways, haven't been that strong on the road courses. Blaney stuck out as by far the best Ford this weekend. But at the beginning of the season, you can really take advantage of these situations when you have the momentum and have your stuff together more than most.
I hate that question, by the way, that I just asked.
It's fair.
But I don't think it is fair, because when we see somebody winning and when they have the momentum, the immediate fallback, and it is so often, it's just like, are they cheating? And it's a silly question. It's horrible. We should just recognize that greatness is greatness. What makes Tyler so great? What have you seen from him maybe this year that you hadn't seen before, or maybe that you had seen before, but he just didn't have the equipment at his disposal to be able to lay it down on track every weekend?
I think his ability to recognize their weaknesses, and listening to him talk, and seeing him show up on time, seeing him be responsible and try to understand how to be the leader of his team, and also be more in tune with where the team is at and what they think, to have those hard conversations. When you have a year where you go without a win and don't have the success that everybody expects, they had a lawsuit going on last year, but not getting a win last year, that's the expectation for Tyler Reddick and 23XI in general, is to go out and win races. And when you don't do that, you better fix that problem quick. And it forced them to have conversations that they might not otherwise have, and that put them in a position to make themselves better, because that's when you learn the most, is when things aren't going good, and having that ability to look yourself in the mirror, your team look themselves in the mirror and say, okay, obviously we're not doing something right. We have to figure this out. But that shows you the relationship, all the Billy Scott, his crew chief, and all the people that are still in place. When you can have those tough conversations, you can make things better when everybody believes in the relationships that they have to ask those questions and point those things out. So it's a very good dynamic for them internally right now from a relationship standpoint.
Which team, which driver do you expect to break this sort of monopoly at the top first? Do you see somebody who you think is the most likely to topple them?
Well, when you go to Phoenix, you have to talk about the Penske cars. And I think right now, Ryan Blaney is the car that has the speed. He had the speed yesterday to compete with Reddick, just couldn't make the pass early enough in the run to be able to pull that off. So I think you have to look at Ryan Blaney right now, especially when we're going to Phoenix.
Yeah, and on that, Kevin, we've got an IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader coming up this weekend in Phoenix.
Yes, and we have an IndyCar driver in Pato Award who is not as excited about it as we all are.
Yeah. For those who didn't see, Pato O'Ward, last season's IndyCar runner-up, made some headlines in the season opener when he told the media he was, quote, tired of IndyCar being treated like a support race. He was referring to IndyCar sharing the weekend schedule in St. Pete with the Craftsman Truck Series and looking to this weekend's IndyCar and NASCAR doubleheader in Phoenix. He expanded that IndyCar shouldn't become, in his words, a sideshow. And look, I love Pato. I love that he's honest and he speaks from the heart. And while I know exactly where he's coming from, I think there's a bigger picture to look at here. First of all, you can count on one hand the number of times that NASCAR and IndyCar have shared a track this decade. And before 2020, NASCAR and IndyCar hadn't shared a track weekend since 1959. Pato himself admitted that the doubleheader weekends were, quote, great for fans, but not for us. And whether he meant as drivers or as the championship itself, I'm not entirely sure. But that statement itself lies at the very heart of why IndyCar and NASCAR doubleheaders are a great idea. Because it shouldn't be about anyone other than the fans. It has to be about what's right for them and how the championship can maximize welcoming new fans to a racing product that we all adore. And the best way to do that is to simply get on with what IndyCar does best, putting on a show, the fastest racing on earth. Time was, not so long ago, that for some inexplicable reason, we as fans of racing got split into our own little territories, which we defended to the hilt. NASCAR versus IndyCar, Formula One versus everyone. And what benefit did it bring to anyone? Zero. We're race fans, pure and simple. Our appreciation of the daring and skill of race drivers should never have become so fiercely divided. With national and international recognition of motorsport and racing drivers on the up, now more than at any time in the last few generations is a moment to come together, to applaud racing and racers of all championships and at all levels. And let's be honest here, when IndyCar and NASCAR share a weekend, NASCAR will be the headline act because right now it is more popular. The figures don't lie. But can they and will they change? Well, in just the first year of Fox's deal to broadcast IndyCar, the championship matched Formula One for average race viewership in the United States. IndyCar is on the rise, but it isn't number one yet. And you know what? That's okay, because being the support act isn't a bad thing. The first concert I ever attended was Radiohead at Wembley Arena in London. It was 1997, I was 16 years old, and that night changed my life and forever shifted my musical passions. But that change didn't come from the headline act. It came from the support act, DJ Shadow. That same year, Oasis went on a world tour. They'd already written and recorded some of their greatest songs by then. They were at the height of their tabloid-baiting, bombastic arrogance. But in 1997, they weren't the headliners. 29 years ago, they toured the world as the support act for U2. You see, there's always a bigger fish. But the band used the tour to get seen by an even bigger audience than the one who'd made them stars at home. They recognized the opportunity and they seized the moment. Because you know what you're expecting with the headliner. The support act has the opportunity to delight, to surprise, and to entrench themselves so deeply in your subconscious that you can't stop thinking about them. Had I not been in St. Pete at the weekend, I, like many fans at the track, might never have watched a Craftsman Truck Series race. But I did, and it won't be my last because I loved it. And I'd wager the same will be true for fans of both IndyCar and NASCAR in Phoenix. It marks an opportunity for IndyCar fans to fall in love with NASCAR and for NASCAR fans to fall in love with IndyCar. For race fans in both camps to gain a new understanding and a new respect for championships which they might never have watched or always believed that they shouldn't. Want people to remember you? Play the best damn gig of your life. IndyCar simply has to do what IndyCar does best, and that's the fastest racing on earth. That's how you make fans, and that's how IndyCar becomes the headliner. Kevin, I know the whole point of this show is
to
bring fans together.
100%.
And I think that's what we're going to have in Phoenix this weekend.
And you know, I hate that he said it, and I look at spending time in Europe and what they think of American motorsports and how they view American motorsports as a little bit of what's ingrained in Pato and what he wanted to accomplish with his path in racing. And I think that, you know, being in America, and IndyCar at one time was more popular than NASCAR. They had the split. Everything went the way that it did, and all of a sudden NASCAR took over as we got into the late 90s, early 2000s, and it has been that way for a long time. But I'm with you, and I think your dialogue there was really well said in relating it to a concert and fans and getting recognized, right? And I think that when you look at Pato in this country, he's not as popular as Scotty and even Palou. I mean, as some of the American drivers like Joseph Newgarden and things like that. And I think it's very interesting to see where the fans are, because when I look at the television ratings for NASCAR, Indianapolis is always way up on our list. We have I would say that the most educated race fans in our country that love sprint car racing. They love midgets. They love NASCAR. They love IndyCar.
Yeah.
They love to race.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we want. And that's why this show is important to racing, but that's why this weekend is important to American motorsports.
That's a really perfect way of putting it. It's very important to American motorsports. And that's, you know, I get, you know, look, it's the opening weekend, and we all sometimes say things that we don't mean, or we don't explain it the right way or whatever. But when Pato said, you know, it's great for the fans, but there should never be a but after that. If it's great for the fans, it's great for the sport. Full stop.
Agreed.
You know, that's literally as simple as it gets. And I don't think there should ever be another consideration after that fact. But we are in this odd place, and I've always felt it throughout my career, that every racing championship seems to have a little chip on its shoulder about another racing championship somewhere, because it was seen as an existential threat at some point to the commercial viability or the commercial success of their championship. But we're in this really great period now for racing where the rising tide lifts all ships. It's a phrase that's used so much, but I think it's so true. You know, Formula One's done a brilliant job of promoting themselves and building their publicity. And that has sort of flooded over to other sports, to NASCAR, to IndyCar, and we should all ride this thing. I think we should ride it all together. There shouldn't be a you should watch everything if you're a race fan. You know, you can start your Sunday with the F1, follow it up with the IndyCar, finish it with the NASCAR. You know, it was great this weekend being able to watch the truck series on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday, you know, we had our warm-up show straight into the Indy Next race, straight into the IndyCar race, straight into Cup, all on Fox. It was mega. It was such a great day of racing.
And that's what you want, and that's what a real race fan wants. And those are the people that will watch this show, and those are the people that will tune in over the weekend. But it is you see Dario and Hinch in the truck race this weekend, really leaning into the other side, wanting to understand it. And I would say that the majority of the drivers in that IndyCar and NASCAR garage are intrigued by each other and want to see what's on the other side of the fence and want to understand what the technology is, what's good, what's bad, because they are so drastically different. I mean, they're just two totally separate disciplines.
And the fans as well. You know, one of the things in St. Pete was you got a lot of fans asking about, well, you know, how does stage racing work?
Yeah.
Because we don't have stage racing in IndyCar.
Yeah.
So it was a new thing for them. If they're not used to watching Cup, they were like, well, how does this work? And then it was explained to them. And they're like, okay, this is cool. And then they were really engaged and really enjoyed it. And it was great to see that sort of that transition of a fan base who were there to see IndyCar. And then you had the truck series, which was the support card, and they loved it. And, you know, I hope that that's the same for IndyCar. Apparently, ticket sales for Saturday in Phoenix are through the roof.
Yeah.
So if you've got your two fan bases there, IndyCar and NASCAR, enjoying it all together, what a perfect thing.
Well, and having Roger Penske and NASCAR and Fox and everybody be able to put this all together and be able to coexist surely there's something we can all learn from each other.
Yeah.
In what you do good and what you do bad, and have an open mind. It's just like we talked with Tyler Reddick's team.
Yep.
Have the hard conversations. Look yourself in the mirror and say, that was great. This was better. This was worse. And take the positives from each side and make it better, because you can always get better.
Yeah. And if NASCAR is as popular as it is, why? Right. What's NASCAR done differently? How has it got the market share that it has? How has it got the viewership that it has? What can we learn from that? And at the same time, there may be elements from IndyCar that NASCAR will look at and say, oh, I like the way they do that.
Right.
We've never thought about it that way. And that's what life is. You learn from experience.
And I had one thing that you posted this weekend that I found really intriguing, and I wanted to ask you about, was the point system in IndyCar, because I saw you put the manufacturers, the team breakdown of points. Is that something that you think could be worked on, or are you just intrigued by it?
That's a conversation for another day.
Okay.
I could do an opinion piece on that one week, I think.
I was intrigued by your post and the points by the team.
Yeah, I'd love to see a legitimate teams championship in IndyCar.
Yeah.
Now, some teams in IndyCar have 2 cars, some have 3 cars, but they're teams in name only, because each of the crews is separate and individual,
right.
And you don't have a team's championship as you do in many other forms of motorsport. And I'd love to see a way where you took the best 2 results from each team over the weekend. So teams with 2 cars, naturally both cars score, but on each weekend, the best 2 results count. Not the best 2 drivers in the championship, best 2 results on each weekend, and get a team's championship out of it. Because they're entering 3-4 cars for the Indy 500.
But it was intriguing, and I knew you're always you seem to be very wise in the things that you throw out there to create that conversation, and that one intrigued me.
Thank you. People rarely say that to me, so I will take that.
That's okay.
Would you like to hear my random thoughts on an IndyCar team championship? Let us know via social media. We'll give you all the details later on in the show. I think it's got legs. I think it could be really, really fun, but time will tell. Okay, time for the racing line, which is where we like to hear from you. Don't forget, this show is for you, so whatever your feelings, your thoughts, your opinions, your questions, get them sent in to us, and we will do our level best to answer them. And do please let us know your name, of course, and where you're from. Kevin, let's find out who's called in the show first.
Hey, Kevin and Will, this is Shane in California. My question is, with how advanced simulators are now, especially in F1 and NASCAR, do you think that we're at the point where sim time can truly replace a full day of track testing? And are there things a simulator still can't teach a driver? Thanks.
First of all, love the voicemail. Getting massive wind tunnel kind of flashbacks with that, which is what the show is intended to be. That's a great question, Kevin.
Yeah, and it's, for me, it's an easy answer. You cannot replace the track time, because of the fact everything that I found in the simulator is not based on feel. It's based on vision, and my vision is bad. So it was a really tough transition for me to start using the simulator. But with the lack of practice, it's where you set your heights. It's where you get used to the racetrack. There's a lot of very useful tools that and things that you do in the simulator that will get the engineers and the crew chief in a direction of things that are happening. Some racetracks works really well. Some racetracks, it's way out of the box. But from a driver's standpoint, for me, I always wanted to be at the racetrack, getting that feel, because I drove with the feel from my butt, and how the car felt, and not with my eyes. So that was one thing that is very hard to get used to, or the visuals and the cues in the simulator. Still has motion, but it's not the same motion. So getting that feel from a driver standpoint, you always want to be on track.
Yeah, I can understand that. I've come from a world in Formula One where driver in loop is incredibly important to how a team goes about their entire race weekend, because Formula One testing is so limited. There's very, very limited track running on an actual race weekend itself. And so the work that the simulator driver can do back at the factory is as important as the work that's going on in real time on the real circuit over a race weekend.
And I always wanted to do it myself, because I wanted the simulator to be built around my setups and my team and my feel and my input that went into the simulator. So I probably spent more time in the simulator than most people realized, because I wanted my engineers to be the ones giving the input on the direction for the team to push it forward.
There you go. There you go. I mean, I remember back in, I think it was 04, or maybe 03, Alpine were really struggling. I think it was probably 04. And Jack Doohan was their reserve driver at the time, had a really horrible time of it when he actually made it to F1 as a racer last season. But they kept him in the simulator all season. And his job on Saturday was essentially figuring out what the team needed to do with their setup if the drivers were completely lost after practice. And more than often they were very, very lost at the track. And so Jack would just go through setup after setup after setup after setup, find the right one, get the data sent over, they'd put it on the car, they'd go out, they'd qualify, and they'd be way better than they had been in practice. And that was all done back at the factory. Now look, Formula One tracks are billiard table smooth. Yeah. So the chance of replicating what you have in reality in the virtual world, I think is far more possible there. The reality outside of Formula One, I think, might be quite different, because you're getting to circuits in different conditions. You know, the asphalt might be breaking up a bit more at one corner than it would be on the simulation, and all of those kind of things. But is a day in the simulator ever going to replace a day on the track? I think that's the ultimate final point of that question.
Well, this is why we do this show, because I've actually met Jack.
Yeah.
And I've actually spoken to Jack about the things that he did in the simulator and that whole process. And but I would still tell you that from the NASCAR side of the world, at track will never replace the simulator with the things that you can get accomplished and verify.
The other issue as well is you just control alt delete and hit respawn back in the pit lane.
Feels a lot different hitting the fence than it does in the simulator.
And that's it, right? You know it's not real.
That's right.
And again, talking about Jack, figured out in the simulator that you could leave DRS open through turn 1 at Suzuka, and then tried it for real. Didn't go well.
Not the same.
No. Great question, Shane in California. Thank you for that. Definitely got us talking. Right, next question.
Hey, Kevin and Will. My name is Jason Ford. I'm from Fredericksburg, Virginia. I've been a NASCAR fan my entire life, but coming into 2026, I wanted to expand my knowledge of racing and start watching other racing series. My question is for both of you. You guys were talking about Max Verstappen and how he might leave F1 if he decided that he didn't like the car or didn't enjoy the racing anymore. If he does decide to leave and part with F1, could we see him experimenting in other racing leagues like Formula E, IndyCar, etc.? If so, where do you think Max would ultimately land at?
Should I take this one?
I think you should. I have an opinion, but I'd love to hear yours first.
I get closer to the microphone, Buxton. Be professional. Yes, I can see Max walk away from Formula One. I think if this current generation of car doesn't suit him, he's a driver who he's achieved everything he wants to in Formula One. He's got a family. He doesn't need to go out there and do it for the sake of it. He'll go and do something that he loves. Could I see him in Formula E? No. And I found it a bit weird that the bosses in Formula E offered him a test because he compared the F1 car this year to a Formula E car, but he didn't compare it to a Formula E car in a necessarily flattering way. It's like, I can't see him going and doing Formula E. Unfortunately, I can't see him coming and doing IndyCar because I would love to see him try the Indy 500. I'd absolutely love it. But I just don't think that he would. I think endurance is where we'll see him next.
I agree. That's exactly what I was going to say. I think that I probably agree with him on Formula E. I just think it's great for development and manufacturing, but I just don't think that not having the sound and the smells of racing, it's a much different style of racing. I think when you look at IndyCar, I think he would view it as taking a step backwards, and just I think that some of those guys are wired that way to think in that direction from an IndyCar standpoint, and I think you're right. I think that he wants to go do something that he wants to do, and something that is just totally different than where he's at, and we've already seen him dabble in it. So I think it's definitely the direction that he would probably lean towards if he did anything.
Yeah, he's. I misspoke last week. He qualified last year for his license at the Nürburgring. He didn't compete at the Nürburgring 24, but he should be competing at the Nürburgring 24 in 2026. That'll be great to see. He's obviously doing a lot in the sim world, in the virtual world, with his Redline team. So I can't wait to see what Max does next. And how fascinating is that? Like,
I hate the fact that, it's even like going back to Pato's comments, and I think that is the F1 mentality when they look at IndyCar. And I think when you look back at it, back in the day with Nigel Mansell and Juan Pablo and those guys that came to IndyCar, it's a lot like Tony Stewart going back to run a truck. It's less pressure. The environment is way more laid back than anything that they've experienced on the F1 side. And you could probably have fun coming over and driving an IndyCar and doing the things that have a lot less pressure than what you've lived in.
But there is also a risk associated with that. And that's twofold. It's, there is a risk because Formula One doesn't run on ovals. Yeah. And a lot of Formula One drivers don't want to take that risk of running on ovals. And that's completely understandable. The other risk is to reputation, because Fernando Alonso came and attempted the Indy 500 one time, did very, very well. Yeah. One time didn't qualify. And they all know how good Fernando is. And if Fernando Alonso can hit a part of his career where he doesn't qualify for the Indy 500s, then they've all got to they've all got to check themselves on that and be like, well, if Fernando didn't qualify, then God, that's. Yeah. I think you can underestimate the challenge that exists in IndyCar if you don't actually come over and look at what goes into it. You just. And there is that, and again, we were talking about it earlier in the show, this kind of division that's been created with the series over the last 30 years and a them and us kind of thing. And there is a bit of a sneering, looking down your nose at IndyCar from Europe. But if you come over and you see it and you experience it and you see the skill level of the drivers, and to have to be good at 4 different types of circuit, road, street, super speedway, and short ovals, like that, it's tough and it takes a lot.
Well, take SVG, for example. If you really want to do it, you're going to have to do it like Nigel did and Juan Pablo. You're going to have to run the road courses. You're going to have to run the season. And you're going to have to probably do it twice in order to be competitive at the Indy 500, to be comfortable with the car.
I'm going to tell you, mate, to be completely honest, this is why I take my hat off to Mick Schumacher. Because most drivers who come over from Europe or from Formula One or Formula 2, they'll just do road and street courses year one in IndyCar. And then the allure of the ovals is so big and the allure of the Indy 500 is so big that they can't not do it in year 2 and beyond. Mick has come over and is doing the full season. And that's actually really, really rare. So I have a lot of respect for that. A lot of respect for Mick actually saying, no, I'm committing and I'm doing the full season. For those who didn't see the race, Mick Schumacher sadly involved in a 3-car accident on the first lap. Not his fault, had nothing to do with it, was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, got collected, and his debut was over before it began. Right. The next question is from GMC Marsha, who I'm hearing is from Alabama. If there was just one thing, Kevin, one thing you could change about the Cup Series right now, what would it be?
I'm gonna get a little bit in the weeds here.
Oh, we love getting in the weeds.
And it's a really simple change to mix the field up. Random qualifying draw. We've done a good job with perception, but random qualifying draw so that it doesn't go off this metric and you don't have all the good cars at the end. Pull a pill, you pull a 1, you go out first. And that, to me, from a promoter standpoint, mixes up the field when we used to do it that way.
Love that.
Yeah. And
tick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just pull the pill, go out there, run your lap, and where it falls, it falls.
Brilliant. Well, they listened to you on the chase, so.
Well, it was a big group of us. Lots of input.
You're too modest.
Yes.
You're too modest. Next question from Hybrid Sammy, who I believe is in Ohio. What Formula One team do you guys believe will benefit the most from the 2026 regulation changes? There's a question.
I know your answer. Go ahead.
Do you?
Yeah.
I don't.
You don't?
I don't have a clue, mate.
I'm going to say, well, based upon everything and your intrigue with the wing, I would think it would be Ferrari, but I'm going to go with Mercedes because I just think with all the engine conversation and the confidence that they've put forth, I'm going to say Mercedes.
I'm going to say anyone but Aston Martin. The latest rumors, stories, whatever you want to call them today, is that they are so sketch for the opening round, they were thinking of missing it entirely. And if they qualify within 107% and are allowed to start the race, they may just tool around, do a couple of laps, and retire.
Unbelievable to be in that position.
It's it's drastic.
Very drastic.
They're really like this.
And what a position to be in going into a season with everything that you've worked through up until this point, and to be talking about not even running the whole race or running at a reduced rate just to participate. Pretty bad.
Yeah, I like it. Mercedes or Ferrari? Let's go with that. Another one from Social Rose from Spain. What was more worse as a race car driver? A rain delay during the race or a rain delay before the race even starts? That's a good question. I like that.
Always during, because you get everything in place. You're comfortable. You're in the car. You're doing everything that you need to do. Then you have to get out of that mode, and you don't know when you're going to go back racing, and you have to reset, get re-energized. So for me, it was always the in-race rain delays.
Love that. I'm not sure what it would be as a broadcaster. I mean, we had a little rain delay before the Indy 500 last year, and it was like, just fill.
Yeah.
Like, how long? Like, don't know. Just fill. And you're like, we're going out to our biggest audience of the year, and we've just got, like, we just fill.
No plan.
Just fill.
Just roll
like,
with
this is it. We roll from here. I actually love those moments. They're great fun. That's it for questions. But also this week on the socials, we asked you to send in your best race day setups, whether that was at the track or from the comfort of your own home. And you delivered with some brilliant entries. Let's start with the first one, which is from Kale in Massachusetts. That's a good-looking race hub. I like that. And we got another one. Yeah, look at that.
Wow.
Zab's pit stop. My Racing Man Cave. 3 screens, endless racing, memorabilia spanning 30-plus years. The best place to take in a great racing day like today. IndyCar, NASCAR, World of Outlaws. Solid Sunday of racing. That
is a guaranteed tune-in for Saturday and Sunday this week.
It's a guaranteed divorce for a lot of people as well, having a room like that. I don't think I'd be allowed that. That looks mega.
Wife might be happy.
Go
down to your room right now. That's what my wife would say. Just go to your room.
Yeah, doesn't send the kids to the room. We'll send me to my little racing den. Remember, folks, you can send us your questions, your thoughts, your opinions on social media at Speed on Fox, or call in to the voicemail 213-534-7107. Kevin, what is your pick for the best question of the week?
I like the simulation racetrack.
I like that one as well.
I think that was a great question.
Bobblehead going out to Shane from California. I hope we've got a more detailed address than just California. Otherwise, it's going to be a nightmare getting it to him. We'll reach out in the DMs. Kevin, driver of the week. And out of everybody, who did you give your flowers to?
Well, we're going to make somebody mad this week because we had so many great performances, but I chose Eli Tomac. I think winning 8 wins at Daytona, such an iconic facility, such a unique track every year that we go there, knocked his tooth out afterwards, picking the trophy up. So I give it to Eli.
I was convinced you were going to go for Tyler Reddick.
They're all spectacular this week with what they've done, and I didn't want to feel too biased either. So I wanted to be open-minded about the perspective, but 8 wins at Daytona is pretty phenomenal.
Wow. Well, I promised that every week I was going to glaze Shane Van Gisbergen and vote for him every week. So, folks, you guessed it. This week, I've gone for Alex Palou. Astounding start to the season for the 4-time champion who has raised his level again. It wasn't just that he won, it was how he won. It was the intelligence, the race brain, the ability to conserve fuel in the opening stint so that he didn't just make a better fuel number than his rivals, but he was able to push like absolute flat chat on the laps that he was able to outstay his rivals on the track.
It was massive.
Like,
I mean, when he came out of the pits and that gap that he had created, another league.
As they're all fighting over each other.
Yes.
And he just sails off into the distance. 59 laps, the biggest winning margin at St. Pete in the history of the race. And everybody who thought, we got a chance this year, they've got to redouble again.
I agree.
Again. All right. you heard from us. But this show, as you know, is as much about you, the fans, as it is about us. Every week, you have the chance to vote for your driver of the week on the Speed on Fox YouTube channel. This week, the internet selected Tyler Reddick as their driver of the week. And once again, it wasn't even close. Last week was 70-30, and this week I think is 70-30, but the 30 is split between 3 different drivers. So that's 10% for each driver. 12 for Shane Van Gisbergen, and 10 for Alex Palou, 7 for Eli. 70, he's going up. It was 70 last week, it's 71 this week.
Well, he's on a roll right now, so I can see why everybody picked him.
I got to say, I agree with that.
Yes.
Like, I really
Yes.
do. He's, I mean, it's never been done.
No,
Never
spectacular.
been done. Time now for Next Lap, where we look towards all the racing happening this coming weekend. And of course, the Formula One season starts this weekend at Albert Park in Melbourne, Australia. And Kevin, I love the start of a season with a new set of regulations, because no matter what anyone thinks they know after testing, no one knows anything. No one.
And that is the ever intriguing part of what we have going on right now. You've seen wings. We've heard talks about engines. We've heard talks about Honda and how bad their engine is. And so, you've got the race for the top, you've got the race for the midfield, and then you've got the race for last. Seems to be already handed out for the piece in last. But it's always fun, like you say, when you have a new car. Nobody really knows what they have until they get to the racetrack as to how much has been unleashed at all these tests, and you finally get all the parts and pieces together at one time.
And there's a lot of American interest in Formula One this year. Of course, Ford returning to the sport with Red Bull, but Haas seemingly had a really good preseason testing schedule. I know we can't read too much into testing. They got the Ferrari engine in the back of their car, which seems to be great off the line, seems to be reliable, seems to be quick. So that's very, very positive for them. But also Cadillac entering the sport, huge news. They've done such an astonishing job, even to make it to the grid. And they took part in all preseason testing, right? They did every single day. You've got established teams like Williams, like Aston Martin, who weren't able to do that. So for Cadillac to be able to do that, that's a massive tick straight out the box. Second thing, they've named the car MAC, Mario Andretti Cadillac, which I adore. Dan Tauris was who's head of TMG, of course, who owned the Cadillac operation, was in St. Pete at the weekend, told us a great story. Mario, there with them at the weekend, Mario got his first speeding ticket ever at age 86 on his 86th birthday. Guess how fast he was going?
86.
Yes.
Yeah.
How brilliant. Mario Andretti he's
a smart guy.
He's never had a speeding ticket in his life.
Yes.
And I think that, they were just like, his speeding ticket, he was like, I'm Mario Andretti. They were like, yeah, pull the other one, mate, whatever. So Mario got his first speeding ticket at the weekend in St. Pete. Anyway, back to Formula One. Cadillac, look, are they going to be winning races straight out of the box? Absolutely not. But to even be on the grid, I think just an astonishing job for them.
Yes. It's a major accomplishment for Cadillac to just be there. You're exactly right. I think that the interesting part is, you've got Cadillac and Ford, and we have a lot of Chevrolets in IndyCar. We have a lot of Chevrolets in NASCAR. And the reason that I say this is how much effort into that Formula One program will affect their other programs as you look at Ford, because you hear a lot of chatter about it from both sides, from teams in the NASCAR garage, about the amount of effort that they're putting into their F1 program. I think Cadillac, to me, is in a little bit different position than Ford, with the expectations of the Red Bull and the only real change, them having the engine in that car. I think Cadillac just being there is a win. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform.
Well, at the moment, Cadillac will be entering Formula One with a Ferrari engine as GM goes to work on creating their own bespoke engine for a little bit further down the line. But in terms of performance on track, we talked about it last week. Ferrari with all the bells and whistles, all the tricks up their sleeve on the car, looking great after preseason testing. Mercedes, as a factory team, looking good. McLaren haven't yet put the race Mercedes engine in their car. When they do, they're expected to find a bit more performance. Red Bull didn't look bad. So I think they, again, will be the top 4 teams, the ones to beat. In what order they're going to be? Yeah, it's anyone's guess, man.
Yeah. And just off of speculation and things that you read and listening to you and all the pieces that you take in, I mean, it seems like a Mercedes Ferrari fight. But how many times have we said that about Max Verstappen? And all of a sudden he just shows back up and in the middle of things.
You can't count him out.
No, never.
Even if the car's not great.
Yeah.
You know, he finds a way because he's Max Verstappen. He's just, unstoppable. Unstoppable. Now, IndyCar, NASCAR, doubleheader. We've mentioned it, but I've never been to Phoenix. Ever.
Oh, wow.
You have been there.
Yeah.
Quite a few times. You've run rather well there.
It has been a great place for performance, and I went there as a kid. So I used to go there and race the NASCAR's Southwest Tour.
Oh, wow!
And we would go over to the Copper World Classic. We would run at the end of the year. So I started going there early '90s. Raced my first race there in I think 1995. So it's gone through a bit of a transition and change, but was very fortunate to go to a racetrack and it be my most successful racetrack as a place that I grew up as a kid. And that was kind of like our Daytona 500 on the West Coast.
What's the challenge like of that circuit, both for NASCAR, and what do you think IndyCar will make of that challenge?
Yeah, well, the balance is getting your car to turn good enough in the entry of 3 and 4 to get through the center of the corner and roll that speed around the long. It's actually 1 and 2 now. That's how long I've been going there. I still get the corners confused, but turns 1 and 2 is a long sweeping corner. And we always concentrated on the end of the first third of the entry right there to be able to get your car to rotate to the center so it was pointed in the right direction.
Interesting.
And the other ends, it's more of a straighter braking. The exit of the corner opens way up on the exit of the corner. So you have to get the car to turn, but you have a lot of room to open that to exit up. So we always concentrated on getting to the center of the corner with the car rotation in turns 1 and 2 as kind of the key to what we did.
Fascinating. I cannot wait to go. IndyCar was testing there a couple of weeks ago. Some really interesting times on the board. ECR, Alexander Rossi, unbelievably fast. Rossi qualified last on the streets of St. Pete.
Wow. Well, and you could see that, right? We're at the beginning of the season. Teams a little bit scattered on the details of where they are, especially teams that have had some change within them. But you're going from a street course to a short oval. We're not going to Indy.
No.
We're not a 2.5 mile oval. We're going to a 1 mile oval, and Indy cars there are awesome.
You got 3 rookies in the field as well. Mick Schumacher, a driver who has never raced on an oval in his life. It's going to be a really intriguing weekend.
It's going to be eye-opening for Mick.
It is.
Yes.
It is. And I hope, as we said earlier, I hope it's an eye-opening weekend for NASCAR fans to appreciate some IndyCar. I hope it's an eye-opening weekend for IndyCar fans to appreciate some NASCAR. And I hope at the end of it, what you get is a fan base, certainly that's attended the race, and hopefully that's been able to see it on TV as well. A fan base who's had their eyes open, as you said,
intrigued.
To something. Yeah, intrigued.
Intrigued by the other side.
We'll go with intrigue.
That's right.
We'll go with that. Jimmy Johnson will have in-car cameras across Speed on Fox social channels for the Mint 400s. I'm so proud that within a week of this thing going to air, we're carrying the Mint 400 and we're going to be on board with Jimmy Johnson.
Well, I just hope he doesn't fall asleep. That's the main thing. We just don't need Jimmy Johnson to fall asleep again in an off-road race like he did in the Baja 1000. So having Speed on board to stream this race and be able to be a part of Jimmy's run in the Mint 400 is something that I'm going to be watching, at least paying attention to in between everything that we have going on this weekend. But it's definitely a fun event, and Jimmy Johnson leading the way, 7-time NASCAR champ. So definitely be a lot of eyeballs.
And the great thing is, if you want to watch it, not just highlights and clips on social media, you can watch the whole thing by going to Speed on Fox's channel on YouTube. It's all going to be there live. The whole thing, start to finish. So we'll have that up over the weekend.
Pretty cool.
Hope you will too. Supercars have their second race weekend of the season this weekend on the support card for F1's opening weekend in Melbourne, Australia. Brock Feeney leads the early title race, tied on points with Matt Payne. Supercars, 3 races per weekend, Kevin. So that should be a good one. I remember when they first came on the F1 support card, and they were known as the Thunder from Down Under.
That's an interesting status.
The rumble
Yes.
when those cars fire past, man, they're fun to watch.
I love to watch them. I mean, I'm not well versed on the supercars, other than I know SVG was really good at it and watched.
Yeah.
But you can go back and watch clips from years, days, weeks, and always find a good supercar race.
I mean, but you look at transition of supercar drivers to the States. You obviously what SVG's doing in NASCAR. Look at what Scott McLaughlin's doing in IndyCar. I think it's a brilliantly exciting championship. B, brilliant for us in the States, and there's a lot of interest. I think people looking over there trying to pick out like, well, who might we be able to take next and bring over here?
Well, it's obviously a car that creates a good driver, and it takes a good driver to be able to manage those cars and do the things that they do. Even through the last couple generations of cars, it always seems Marcus Ambrose came here and was very successful in NASCAR. If he was in a better car, he would have had similar to success that Shane is having, in my opinion. So it's happened longer. It's not just happened with SVG. Marcus Ambrose was here a long time ago.
Okay, race times for this weekend. The Mint 400, as we said, you can find it on the Speed on Fox YouTube channel. The race starts 1 p.m. Eastern, so you can catch that there. IndyCar comes to you on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and that's going to be live on Fox. And then on Sunday, also on Fox, is your NASCAR Cup race from 3:30 Eastern, and both of them coming your way from Phoenix.
I can't wait for this weekend. I know we're going to have a lot of interaction at the racetrack, but I can't wait to watch the Mint 400. I can't wait to be a part of NASCAR and IndyCar, and at one of my favorite tracks.
It's going to be great.
Yes.
Going to be great. Right, one thing left for this week, and it is Overtime, a part of the show where we delve into the wider world of sports to pick out one moment that was inspiring to us. Kevin?
Well, I think for me, it was the tuk-tuk race at the MotoGP event this weekend. I was rolling through Instagram, and I said, oh, MotoGP's live, and I pulled this up, and this was what was on television, and I guess I didn't really know what a tuk-tuk was, but...
Have you never been in a tuk-tuk?
No, I've never been in a tuk-tuk. So this is taking riding in a tuk-tuk to another level.
They're kind of like taxis in around the world, but a lot of cities... You were just in Austin. They've got tuk-tuks blaring out music all over town.
Really?
Yeah, you pay them a couple of dollars and they'll take you to your restaurant.
Used an Uber.
You missed out.
Yeah,
you missed out.
Well, I'd like to see a tuk-tuk race.
And that was the MotoGP riders in tuk-tuks.
That's right.
I like that. So not really that was your sporting moment.
Yeah, I thought that was fantastic.
My sporting moment of the week was our dear friend Dario Franchitti.
Yes.
And I know it's a cop-out because it's racing, but 52 years of age, out of pro racing for 13 years after a horrifying accident brought his career to an end. And just to see the joy in him at the age of 52, jumping back in. And not just jumping back in, but he ran top 10 all afternoon. And he was dancing around on the pedals, heel and toeing, like proper SVG style, in the car. Desperately impressive. Dario's a good friend, dear friend, and just the loveliest human being. Jimmy Johnson organized a roast for him on the Friday night. And let me tell you, it is impossible to roast Dario Franchitti for two reasons. One, you can't roast somebody who is that universally loved. And number two, he's got way more dirt on everybody trying to roast him than they've got on him. So it was a great night, lovely weekend. And I'm just super happy for Dario that he was able to get back in and show so well.
And I think for him, it just seemed like personally, it meant so much for him to be back in a race vehicle, not just out making laps, but to be back in there. Now, he did choose to drive the hottest thing on the NASCAR circuit inside.
Yeah.
I mean, 140 degrees inside that truck. And that will definitely get your attention on a warm Florida day.
Yeah, well, 13 years out of the seat.
Yes.
Into his 50s, into the heat, back in the seat. It was
great
brilliant,
to see.
Brilliant stuff. You can hear from Dario. Actually, a little bit later this week, I had the opportunity to spend some time with him in St. Pete. That interview coming your way on Thursday. One day earlier, though, on the Wednesday, Kevin is going to sit down with Cletus McFarlane for a chat, and I can't wait to hear what you guys discuss in that. But that's coming your way this week on our Speed on Fox YouTube channel, and also all over the socials, as we always do. And that, Kevin, is about it for this week. Thanks so much for being here, mate. I will see you in, what is it, 48 hours? Something like that?
Not too many days.
When you flying into Phoenix?
I'll be there Friday morning.
Friday morning?
Yeah. You'll have already been there for a day.
This guy's a part-timer. I get in tonight.
IndyCar practices a lot. We get 30 minutes.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and play some golf, though.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Be warm.
It
Weather will
will
be nice.
It will. Gonna have to go buy some shorts. Well, this has been Speed with Harvick and Buxton, fueled by Poet. Whether you've been watching or listening, please don't forget to subscribe, either on YouTube or wherever it is that you get your podcasts. We will see you next week. And now, for those of you watching, here's the best wrecks of the week.
Ready in the field, guys. The IndyCar kickoff weekend. This is so much fun.
Oh, big slide there coming out of turn 3. That's a fast corner. Saw a little bit of smoke there, maybe a little bit of tire rub because that thing's so loaded as the 16
and the
gets
16
turned
is around. That's Justin Haley.
Get that thing fired up. We can keep all this fun going.
Georgia talked about him. What happens with Haley?
Stewart Friesen down on the inside, and Haley tries to shut the door, and I think Stewart was plenty far in there. He was running 12th, so had a good start to this race.
Oh, 5.
Around Adam Andretti around. Trying to see who that is. If it's Daniel Hemrick. Daniel Hemrick involved. Christian Eck, his teammates right there together. See the damage, heavy damage for Adam Andretti in the 5 truck. Left something behind. He's having a good run. Talked about him.
Top of the screen there.
Little help.
Sure, who got into the back of him a little bit, but then got turned into the tires. But he hit tire stack, Michael. He didn't hit concrete. So
Oh,
if I'm Adam
there's
Andretti,
another.
the right front, though, got hit pretty good.
Another hard hit coming up here.
That's not something that Hitch would be used to through all of his years racing here. It'd be easy, wide open in an IndyCar with all that downforce.
Laps ago for Hinch.
10. Locked up the rear.
Watch this. That's a lot of speed into a corner. Chris Wright wasn't about to make that turn, but luckily he found a place to spin pretty easily and no contact.
Situation racing in anger.
Until this. Oh.
That was a big hit.
Oh, and that's Minnie Terrell in that 14. He's into the outside wall.
But man, I've been so impressed with Lane Riggs today. Right back on the tail is the 88 time. Majeski gets wide. He's in the grass and into the tires.
He gets it back on course. How many spots does he give up? 4.
Just watching Majeski. Can't tell if he got some wheel hop there, but I think he sent it in a little too hard, like you said.
Just helpless at that point, trying to get back on the road. Luckily, no more damage than he did.
Wow.
How cool is that?
Take another look at that.
Saw Jimmy Johnson throwing a squeegee, I think, to one of the crew members to try to clean up the windshield there. Let's take a look back at turn 4.
Oh, Eckes gave room.
Tyler Reif got into him, and around goes Jake Garcia. He's able to clear them.
Reif missed the apex of that corner, and I think
Advantage of that as we saw this for Brent Cruz, so he's down, falling back as SVG got by him in 6A and 6B. Sammy Smith got by him into 12, and now Sheldon Creed comes in there, gives a little hip check. Not bad, not bad. But this is where it gets aggressive. So this corner, this is sort of the carousel that they're heading towards. Out of, we look back once again out of 15. Here, you have a shower entry, but this right here, you can't quite do that. It's an off-camber corner, and these cars just find themselves really floating out. Sheldon was, doing the common line. Brent tried a very shallow line, and the car was never going to turn, got together.
Oh. That's Leguizman, I believe. I was waiting on Parker to say it.
Yeah. Off
That's
track.
a huge hit right
Had
here.
the big spin earlier, but here in the gravel into the tire barrier.
Where is he at on the track?
I believe it's turn 2. Yeah,
Oh, turn one.
Yeah.
Well, you got to think that maybe a brake issue to wreck right there. Something broke.
And we just now get the caution. We had stayed green, but the caution comes out here. First caution of the day for an incident on
track, but to end up there, I think you're correct that there had to be some sort of issue to be that far off the track in turn 1.
And what does this do to impact strategy? Going to be 5 laps to go. Shane Van Gisbergen leading, and here's what brought out the yellow.
High rate of speed. Ooh. Definitely some sort of issue there, maybe a loss of brakes.
We'll see what happens with Eastman, who slides up through the gravel in turn 1. He gives the thumbs up as he walks away. Checkered flag, stage 2 complete. Sam Mayer in front of Justin Allgaier. As we have trouble off of turn 20 and 2 drivers that had spent a lot of time in the top 15, Nick Sanchez and Dean Thompson. And today, Corey Day is the man on the move.
Connors made a tremendous recovery, had to go to the back because of the brake issues they had. Slowly worked his way up. Obviously, these guys are a little quicker. Get a look here and see Harrison Burton, a little bit of contact from Taylor Gray. He's along for the ride now. Just sitting here, and these guys behind, the way the spotter situation is, happens so quick. So many blind spots around the track.
As 3-1 is take a look at Sam Mayer down into 6A. Oh, just loses the rear, overcooked it. Gets into the barrier, stopped. Now it's an awkward position. Oh, we've got Zilich around.
Wow, it worked his way to the top 5, and he's got damage.
Big contact there for the 1 car.
I was just going to say, never finished outside the top 5
in the S's
on the road.
That could be our first victim of the tires.
I think if we get another shot at this, he had some help. Get the replay. A lot of damage on that car. I was just going to say, if he could just get a late caution here, he had a shot at it. Here's the replay. So out of 2, heading towards 3. Corey Day gets a little sideways. It just hits him in the left rear.
That's twice Corey's misjudged that.
Yeah.
In a similar section of the racetrack. See, Connor's going to get to his outside of 2. Looks like he's going to try to slip back in the line and just completely misjudge that again. Man, that's a fast section of the track to get spun around.
And that is another position gained, but a crash, and big crash behind. There's 2 cars in the barrier. Stingray Robb, I believe, is one of them. Full course yellow. Oh, and that is Mick Schumacher in there as well, and Marcus Armstrong.
I don't think that's Marcus Armstrong. I believe Stingray Robb and Mick Schumacher all together there as Mick Schumacher launched off the back of Ferrucci. Emma Dixon, wife of Scott Dixon, looks relieved.
Guys, we talk so much about turn 1 being chaos. The thing about turn 4 is it tightens way up. Turn 1 is so wide. You can run through there 2 wide, 3 wide. We saw 3 wide through turn 4 just ahead of these cars, but once one gets into the barrier, it usually bounces back. Half the track width is gone, and there's often some innocent bystanders in that.
So let's take a look at everybody weaving down into turn 4. Keep your eyes towards the rear of the field. That's where it's all going to happen.
You see that 3 wide happen before. Okay, so it's Ferrucci and Stingray Robb side by side going in, and Mick Schumacher.
Just one more stop, we think, to get to the end.
Oh, Dixon's lost right rear.
The tire.
There you see the right rear bouncing further down the pit lane, sitting up on there.
That's going to be a full course caution. There it is, and that's going to hurt the likes of Foster, VK, Rossi. Luckily, had Palou not yet pit, he would have been absolutely hosed on that. The timing was so fortunate. Alex Palou once again.
Yeah, the fortune, the luck that favors him. Now, James, explain to us why, for the likes of Foster and Rossi, why is this caution now detrimental to their race?
Well, they were hoping to sort of gap some of the drivers behind them because they are going to have to do that extra stop. They've done a little bit off sequence. Let's see a replay. Dixon right out of the pits,
was
down into turn 4.
You can see the wheel nut.
Yeah, there's the wheel nut.
And that is a very uncharacteristic mistake on the pit stop, and he knows it. Look at him looking in his mirror. Dixon knows something's wrong right there. Oh, what a save, though.
Yeah, great job to hang on to it.
And take a look on the rear right. That's the rear tire closest to us. Seemingly no issue. Everybody happy with it, but you see it wobbling immediately. We can see that.
It looked like the right rear changer struggled a bit to get the wheel off initially, and then the car dropped a little too soon before the nut was tight. On board here with Kyle Kirkwood, we'll watch this camera pan, and then you'll see the wheel nut right there depart the axle, and along with it, the wheel and tire.
He's going to get himself a top 25 finish out of this, and still recovering from that broken leg. Attaboy. Oh, little bumper tag there. Oh, no! Kyle Busch got into Jesse Love, who got into Chris Buescher, who got off track at turn 20, but continues. All right, Chris Buescher got the worst of it in this one.
Yeah, and the 8 and 33 teammates had been going at it, and then Kyle looked to pass him, and Jesse shut the door, and Kyle didn't like it and shoved him out of the way. And unfortunately, Chris Buescher was right there and got spun out.